What students need right now and beyond. Why we should prioritize social emotional learning as a way to move forward. I am your facilitator in conversation, Genevieve Bosman-Martinez. What is SEL and why is it more important than ever? The role of education is to help prepare kids for the world in which they live and the world in which they will live with the knowledge and skills they need to succeed. This means that the educational system needs to be constantly evolving to serve our children. Never has this been more apparent than in the last 3 years, as our kids have faced an unprecedented reality, which has, in many ways, turned the world upside down. And just as we did not know what the world would look like during the pandemic, one can only predict what the world may look like after. Consequently, the focus of education needs to change. Educators need to take a hard look at the reality of where our kids are and determine where they will need to go and how we will get them there. Simultaneously, we need to acknowledge the challenges they face and the barriers to their achievement. In order to achieve our academic goals for our students, it's imperative that we also attend to their emotional needs. Social emotional learning, or SEL, is the process through which children and adults acquire the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. Social and emotional skills are critical to be a good student and citizen. Not a new topic, SEL was at the forefront of education prior to COVID-19, as the U.S. has struggled to make improvements in test scores and has fallen behind its counterparts internationally. The call has been made by both educators and families alike to take care of the whole child and refocus education on skills the kids are lacking to set them up for success. Research affirms social, emotional, and academic development is an essential part of pre-K through 12 education that can transform schools into places that foster academic excellence, creativity and innovation, empathy and respect, civic engagement, and other skills and dispositions needed for success in the 21st century. Never before, however, has this framework presented such an important opportunity to support our children in dealing with the challenges of our world. This presentation explores the essential role social emotional learning should play in education today. What's it like being a kid today? It can be hard. 46% of children have had at least one adverse childhood experience, or ACE. 20% of students have had 2 or more ACEs. And whether educators and schools are aware or not, they are encountering many trauma-affected students. And the pandemic has only worsened the situation. Some 40,000 students have lost at least one parent. 20% of Black students are among those who have lost at least one parent. And 40% of parents report that their children with IEPs have struggled with distance learning. The pandemic has become a public health crisis. On January 4, 2022, the New York Times article, No Way to Grow Up, reported the crisis our children face today. The author, David Landhart, brought to light their challenges. He said, many children, especially those historically at risk, have fallen behind academically and have not caught up. Many kids are experiencing mental health problems. Attempted suicide rates have risen. Many schools across the country have not been able to return to normal, which has exacerbated learning loss and feelings of social isolation. Gun violence has increased against children. Children's behavior issues have increased. And new variants are toying with society's attempts to create stability. Parents are saying, this is no way for our kids to grow up. All of this contributes to an environment of toxic stress, which can affect an individual's window of tolerance or a person's capacity to deal with what is happening in life and thrown their way. Trauma and toxic stress can impede one's capacity to process information as well. Research has found that kids are feeling the pressures of the pandemic, which manifest in anxiety, depression, and loneliness. The transition back to in-person learning, socializing with peers, sports and extracurricular activities has been a welcomed one. but has also added challenges for kids to adapt to their busy routine once again. And in many cases, they are burned out, but still continue with stress and uncertainty all around them. What is the connection between these stressors affecting children and SEL? Key components of SEL are emotional and self-regulation. The which, when, how, and the expression of emotions. It can affect how kids cope with the unexpected and the challenging circumstances, and may also impact their ability and motivation to bounce back. Self-efficacy. It's an individual's belief in personal abilities to produce specific performance attainments. Children may be exhibiting poor social skills due to periods of isolation, which are necessary to form important connections to establish support networks in times of crisis. Social skills. Tools to communicate thoughts and feelings, guiding out actions with others. The lack of interaction caused by school closures may affect students' social skills. Social skills may be important for eliciting support from others in times of crisis. And mental health. A state of well-being that helps an individual realize personal abilities and support coping mechanisms to deal with normal life stressors, work productively, and serve as contributing members of society. Mental health may have been adversely affected during the pandemic. In order for students to engage in learning, their mental health challenges will need to be identified and addressed. So what can schools do to help support students to not only weather the storm, but to come out on top? According to Darling Hammond and Cook Harvey, a positive school environment supports students' growth across the developmental pathways: physical, psychological, cognitive, social, and environmental, while it reduces stress and anxiety that create biological impediments to learning. Such an environment takes a whole child approach to education, seeking to address the distinct strengths, needs, and interests of students as they engage in learning. School climate creates the physiological and psychological conditions for productive learning. Without secure relationships and supports for development, student engagement and learning are undermined. Social emotional learning, or SEL, can help educators and schools create safe and inclusive environments for students in which they can learn and foster the skills they need to thrive, both emotionally and academically. This student-centered whole child approach may just be more important than ever before. To echo Albert Einstein, I never teach my pupils, I only attempt to provide them with the conditions in which they learn. What are the key elements of a school-wide SEL program? Explicit SEL instruction integrated with academic instruction, student voice and engagement, authentic family partnerships, supportive discipline, supportive classroom environments, systems for continuous improvement, aligned community partnerships, and a focus on adult SEL as well. How can these SEL skills benefit our students in the long term as well? In a 2016 report, New Vision for Education, Fostering Social and Emotional Learning Through Technology, the World Economic Forum reported that to thrive in the workplace in the future, children need to learn social and emotional skills such as collaboration, communication, and problem solving. But especially important will be adaptability, as more than half of students will work in jobs that don't yet exist. The World Economic Forum in 2020 also identified the skills that students will need in the future. For 2025, they will need analytical thinking and innovation, active learning and learning strategies, complex problem solving, critical thinking and analysis, creativity, originality, and initiative, leadership and social influence, technology use, monitoring, and control, technology design and programming, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility, reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. All of these are SEL. Increasingly, since 1980, more and more jobs out in the workforce are requiring social skills. With this in mind, educators and schools need to evaluate whether they are truly preparing students with the content and skills that they will need for the future, and the mindset and perspectives they will need to thrive.